talk first.
I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Alina.
And
we are both therapists here at Harper Therapy.
Yes.
So if you make an appointment at Harper Therapy, you may come and see one of us.
Yes.
So that's exciting, hopefully. So Jen today is going to talk about
how to stop avoiding your thoughts. So generally what I see happens, and even for myself, we try to avoid discomfort.
Yeah, no kidding.
As humans, we generally don't like to sit in uncomfortable situations. We don't like to feel uncomfortable feelings. We don't like to think uncomfortable thoughts. And so it makes sense in general that we try to bury those. Like, that's our natural.
But I feel like that's kind of primal, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, if it's raining, like today it's raining outside, so I got my umbrella because I don't want to get wet. And if it's cold, I'm going to put a sweater on because I don't want to be cold. So some of that is just like a natural human instinct, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I asked you, would you rather feel happy or would you rather feel sad? Most people would probably say, well, I'd rather feel happy. Why would I want to feel an uncomfortable emotion?
Right.
So yeah, I think it goes a lot with like human nature of like, let's just avoid this. Let's just push this away because it doesn't feel good.
Right. But
so,
unfortunately, we don't always have control over things that happen in life, right? And certain things or certain thoughts are going to make us feel not great. So
exactly.
How do we deal with it?
Yes. So what I'm going to tell you is not avoiding the thought. And a lot of times people are like, what do you mean don't avoid that thought or feeling? But it actually can make it louder, because if I told you right now, don't think of a purple elephant, what happens for you?
Just want a purple elephant.
Exactly. So if you almost give yourself permission, it actually makes it easier. So what I've noticed, though, is that people will experience these thoughts or these feelings, and then they'll do so many behaviors in order to avoid it. So we may start trying to just ignore that thought. We may start trying to challenge it and kind of get ourselves in a loop where we're just sitting there now arguing with this thought.
Right. Or we might zone out on our phones or binge watch shows or drink something, use something, eat something, anything to not have to necessarily deal with that thought, which ultimately creates a feeling. Because a lot of the times when we have negative thoughts or certain thoughts that we want to avoid, we carry judgment about it. So, if I think a certain thing about, a friend or a family member, relationship, whatever, then it's like, well, I can have a judgment about it towards myself or them, and that doesn't feel good. So I want to avoid it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there can be so much judgment about that. Like, if you came in and you thought, wow, that person's really frustrating me or annoying me. Sometimes people are like, oh no, like, I'm a nice person. This doesn't align with like the feelings or thoughts I want to have. So I'm just going to push this feeling down. So when you're in that situation, you may be checking out. You may be not present in it. So those are all the tools that you're using to try to avoid it. And then if you look at it bigger picture, what ends up happening is usually what you were saying, like resulting emotions arise. You maybe start to feel sad. You maybe start to judge yourself. And so you start to feel like not wanting to go out as much. You can start isolating. All that can originate from just trying to ignore that one little thought or feeling. And so I say that because generally people are like, well, I'm just going to keep doing it. And the big picture is you can keep doing it, but it may actually lead you farther away from your goal. So one thing I want to talk about is allow that thought to be there. Notice that thought. Allow it to kind of fit into that narrative maybe you hold of yourself. Like, notice it. If you're like, wow, that person's really frustrating me today. Notice it without judgment. Kind of as an outsider to that thought. And be like, okay, I'm noticing that I'm feeling frustrated. Just let that sit there.
Okay. How would you recommend people who maybe have a tendency to judge themselves, how would you recommend someone not judge that thought or feeling?
I would say to normalize it and recognize that this is probably a universal feeling.
Yeah.
At some point, we all feel frustrated. And even kind of recognize that your identity, the idea of like, I'm a nice person, that can include uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. Being a nice person, or having like can be that you feel angry, you feel frustrated. Maybe another one is like if you feel confused about something but you don't want to admit it because you think your narrative is I'm a smart person. Kind of opening that up, the identity. The tighter our identity is, the harder it is for us to let new thoughts and feelings in. But if we're able to expand that identity and be like, I can hold this thought and this feeling and still be this, it can help us kind of navigate life more.
That's deep, Jen.
Thank you. So yeah, notice it. Let it be there without judgment. Because we're so quick to be like, what does this mean? Why do I feel this way? Sometimes just allow it to pass. And if it's a time period where maybe you're at work and you're starting to feel really sad and you're like, oh, like, I don't want to feel this sadness right now. Notice the sadness and allow yourself to be like, okay, I notice this. I'm going to put it in a little box, visualize it. I'm going to put it up in the closet, but I know I'm going to come back to it at a time that I have to process this further.
Right. So I actually give my clients homework sometimes. Like obviously when we're in the middle of life, kids, work, all that stuff, we don't have time to just sit and be like, have some feelings, right? Be in our feelings. But it is important to take time every day to check in with ourselves. Some people do that through meditation, just like mindfulness, being quiet. Some people do it through journaling, but I really encourage my clients to take that time, even if it's 15 minutes, to really say like what was coming up at that point and do some self-reflection.
Absolutely, yeah, because I think that we always have time in the day to like take some time just for ourselves, just like that me time.
Right.
And that can be uncomfortable because that is when those thoughts can come. Yeah. But just kind of noticing them. Even if you were doing a meditation and you're trying to focus on the here and now, you can use this tool as well of just noticing these thoughts. And what I usually tell clients to do is visualize a stream with lily pads or leaves and just kind of imagine that thought drifting down. You can use this during your meditation. You can use this at work. You can use this when you're out and about and you just are like, okay, I see that. So a lot of times when we acknowledge the thought and don't fight it, it doesn't become so scary and it doesn't become so prevalent. And sometimes it can actually pass. Sometimes you may be feeling frustrated at that person, and if you accept it, it passes. And then maybe you're feeling frustrated by the end. But if you're trying to fight it and be like, I shouldn't be frustrated, it actually is going to make you more frustrated. If you're telling yourself, I shouldn't feel this way, it's just going to bubble.
Right. There's an old saying that says, like, what you resist persists. So when you try to force against something, it's going to keep showing up. And, even an old, I think it's physics, but to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Every time we're like reacting to something, it creates more energy, more momentum around that particular thing.
I like that. I like how you actually included like science in it. That is really cool.
Don't quote me on it. Just put it out there and leave it there.
But that makes perfect sense. Psychology and physics combined.
Yes, yeah. We're multidisciplinary.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well,
anything else?
No, that's all I have for today.
All right, awesome. So practice noticing without judgment to the best of your ability and see what comes up. All right? Thanks, everyone.
Bye.